As a 25-year mortgage veteran, I pride myself on being one that can master work-life balance through intermediate meditation, through working out and spending time with family and friends. It helps you stay focused on the task at hand. Deals and Dollars with Don was created to help those people that don't have the experience of getting those deals to the table. We show you how to get the deals, how to get them to the table, and how to enjoy life at the same time. Welcome to Deals and Dollars with Don. Welcome to Deals and Dollars with Don, where we show you how to get the deals and get them to the table. Today's first episode, the one and only Cindy Ertman and the 5 pillars of elite producers. Let's do it. Today's episode is extra special for me, not only because it's my first one, but because I get to sit down with someone who's not just a guest, she's my coach and a true mentor. Cindy Ertman is a nationally recognized mortgage leader, success strategist, and the founder of The Defining Difference, where she coaches top producers and executives to reach the next level. For over a decade, Cindy ranked among the nation's top 100 mortgage originators, closing more than $200 million annually. She's a best-selling author, a quality award winner, and a frequent keynote speaker who's shared the stage with icons like Tony Robbins and Jack Canfield. Most importantly, she's helped shape how I show up in business and in life. And today she's here to share the 5 pillars of a top producer. Cindy Ertman, welcome to my very first podcast.
So excited to be here with you, and congratulations on launching this. I'm so proud of you. This is so fun.
It is so fun and it's so needed. You know, when I first started coaching, I didn't know there were 5 pillars of a top producer. I didn't even know there were pillars of a top producer. And then I had to kind of research that. I thought there were maybe 7, but then that was the 7 wonders of the world, which is like me doing coaching. But but let's get into the pillars. Let's see. What are the top pillars of, what's the number one pillar of a top producer?
Well, look, I think at the end of the day, everything starts with mindset. It just does. I mean, in every aspect of business, I don't even care what business you're in, everything starts here because it all blooms from there. And unless we get this right, nothing else falls into play. So I believe that even every keynote that I do in presentation, I mean, the last 3 years have been tough for the mortgage industry, right? It's been a completely new and defined market. So how do we get ourselves back into a better mindset so that we can figure out how to be successful regardless of the market conditions? Because that's really what it takes right now. So mindset is probably number one.
Is mindset the easiest to fall off of, do you think?
100%, because we're all human and we're all affected by, first of all, what we allow into our brain, right? Which I think is so important. Like, we have to really pay attention to what news we're listening to. I stopped listening to the news in 2004.
Okay.
And it was a very intentional choice. Now, important news finds me. Financial news finds me. I mean, my head isn't in the sand. I do subscribe to a lot of newsletters for mortgage, so I know what's going on in our industry, and national news definitely finds me through social media. But I used to get up and turn on, CNN right out of the gate, or I would turn on something right immediately, and I was pouring that in, and we know that news is based on fear. So I really do try to keep fear at bay, and I think the key to a sound mindset is really deciding the whole core foundation of The Defining Difference, which is my coaching and training company, is around amazing. Making intentional choices. And what, really the core of it is, like, if we don't like where our life is today, if we're not happy with our production, if we're not happy in our relationships, if we're not happy with our income or our health, we've got to make different choices. It doesn't change without us making intentional choices for change. So our day starts with an intentional practice. And when I really, we hear that all the time. How do you start your day? And it sounds so cliche, but in reality, I have a non-negotiable hour each and every morning, and it's non-negotiable for me. I will go to bed earlier. I started a year and a half ago setting an alarm at night because I'm a late owl. So I will stay up too late because my mind goes into overdrive late at night. But now I have an alarm that goes off at 10. I have an alarm that goes off at 10:30 so that I am in bed by 11 o'clock. And I got very intentional about my life during and after COVID because things needed to shift. And so intentionality is really it's what drove me to become a $200 million a year producer. So getting intentional about your choices, really look at the choices that we make. We know what choices don't serve us, you know? So I think for me, morning practices are key.
Starting the day with the right mindset, right?
100%. And it makes such a big difference. I spend my life pouring into people each and every day to help people grow. As loan originators, you're pouring into people every single day. You're pouring into clients, you're running a branch, you're pouring into the people that you serve, both other originators, your team, your own client base. It's a lot of energy to manage. So we have to start with managing our own energy first.
So can you share a moment whenever, the epiphany hit, you were like, I have got to get in the right mindset, like when you were creating the defining difference or climbing that $200 million ladder, was there a moment to where you said, okay, my mindset made the difference in this?
Oh, in every aspect. When I left origination, I left a really big role. I set my intention down when I got into mortgage. I had a mentor of mine said to me one day, he said, Cindy, no one can make you great. You have to decide to be great. And that seems like such a basic thing, but there was something about those words that really resonated with me very early in my career. And I remember driving home one night and those words were kind of resonating in my mind. And I thought, I made a decision that I was going to become one of the greatest mortgage loan originators in America. And I sat with that every single day, like, what is going to make me great? And so to be great, I had to start focusing on really every area of the pillars of my business. But so I built a really significant business. And I got to admit, I was very tied, Dawn, to my recognition, to all the awards that I had won as a top producer. I mean, I had plaques all over my office and, glass awards, hundreds of them. Because, I was between 100 and 200 million in production for many years of my career and was definitely in the top 100 originators for over a decade. So obviously that feels good, but I was so committed to serving people at a high level. I never did this business for the money. I just kept focused on how can I serve people in a more impactful way. And I was in such service to my referral partners. But when I finally decided to leave origination, leave my leadership role. My title was National Success Strategist for a national mortgage bank. I had a very big role nationally. I had to prepare for that because I knew that was going to be one of the biggest mental shifts I was ever going to go through in my life because I was leaving what I was defined by. And I think we're frequently defined by our roles. So that was one of the biggest shifts for me because for 6 months, I literally was a leader with no one to lead until I built my company. And of course, you're building something new. You don't know if they'll come. You have to have a lot of faith. But I thought if I do the same process to build my coaching and training platform as I did to become one of the nation's top mortgage producers, I cannot lose because I just have to take a step each and every day towards growth.
But so you wake up every morning with focus, which I do too. It's just that's part of your coaching program is just staying focused on the end game. But I would say 80% of the originators today, they don't wake up with focus. They wake up with fear. And
100%.
So how do you shift someone from fear to focus?
Well, fear really is lack of clarity.
Okay.
And a lot of fear is based on future thinking. And look, I have to practice this too. When I get fearful, I'm human. I get fearful. We've had a very challenging, fearful-based market the last few years. But I think we have the way to really shift fear to focus is first clarity, and that's where having a map out plan for the day. My schedule's crazy. My staff is like, we don't know how you do it. And I've been this way, like, well, I can handle a lot, but I'm highly organized and I show up to my plan. I actually have a plan and I show up to it for real. Like, we can't build a business just chasing our tail every day. We've got to have a plan. I would say one of the number one things, Don, that I see is loan originators of all levels we're all control freaks on some level, so we want to control every aspect
100%.
of the process, right? We don't want to give up control because we think if we're not the one updating the realtor, if we're not the one calling the client, if we're not the one, then our clients are going to leave us, our referral partners are going to leave us. It's just not true, but it's a story we tell ourselves, and that story keeps us from being able to grow.
Right.
So first and foremost, understanding that we cannot scale a team alone. You can't stay in the day-to-day and be in the grind of getting your files through the system and grow a thriving business. So first of all, we have to understand the concept of we're only as good as our team. And if we don't have a team, we've got to get our business to a level where we can actually, hire our first team member. But
Right.
the getting rid of fear is about, like, I keep myself focused on the day in front of me, and I try very diligently not to go into the week ahead, the months ahead, because even in June I was at 2 back-to-back mortgage conferences. I was presenting at Mastermind Summit, which was a 6-month prep of getting ready for that event, and I have to stay focused in what's in front of me today. So I do work on being present with my clients. When I'm leading a coaching session, if I'm on a call with you, I'm 100% in with you. I'm not checking my emails, my text messages. I'm present. And so I keep myself present in the current day and try to keep myself from going into future thinking. That helps. Overwhelm is very easy to get into in mortgage because you think about it. If you really break down all the different pillars of, you've got to have systems and processes,
Right.
you got to know all your products, you got to know all the technology to get the loan through the system, you've got to know guidelines, you got to be able to market
It's a
your
lot.
business.
It's
You
just a
gotta do
lot.
social media, you've got to manage your database. I mean, there's so many aspects of running a successful business, right?
Right.
So you've got to chunk it down, because if you look at it in totality, that's why I like putting things in buckets. And I like mapping out my schedule and my calendar in buckets. So, for me, I have a plan. Like, I am not on my email first thing in the morning. When I wake up in that hour, it does involve coffee. I gotta admit.
Got a little.
Coffee's part of my day, but I immediately, for me, because I have faith, I have a devotional that I read every single morning. That's the first thing that I do every morning. Then I do one of two things. I do an out loud gratitude prayer for anything and everything, or I've got a gratitude journal. I created my own last year. So, I'll write down 10 things that I'm grateful for. It does really help ground us to really come back to what we're grateful for. And then I will do some form of meditation. Right now I'm obsessed with Insight Timer app, and I do a 10-minute meditation. Sometimes I'll do 2 10-minute meditations. This morning I did a 10-minute silent meditation because I'm really trying to create some new programs, and I'm really trying to get some clarity around what does that look like for me. And then I try to do some kind of education. I'm listening to I always have like 4 books on Audible because I try to walk 4 days a week first thing in the morning. And so I'm always listening to some kind of a podcast, education. I'm an education junkie. So that's the way my morning starts. And usually by the time I'm done with that hour, I'm in a really good place mentally.
Well, and so that's the main thing is, like, you wake up every morning with clear focus that helps you get in the right mindset, which is number one. But then that helps you for the second pillar in elite producers, which is skill set, right?
100%. I mean, and we got the other thing is, for loan originators, focusing on the right activity. I'm always amazed. I'm coaching 2 different people right now that are doing so many things. And I see this a lot because there's so many, look how many tools there are, so many shiny objects we can follow in mortgage. This is cool. Now we have all the AI tools, we got
been crazy.
We have to have this tool, and you have to have, there's so many things competing for our dollars, our time, and our attention. But frequently it puts us all out here and we're casting a net way too wide and we're not going deep. And so I always say, really look at the tools that you have. Are they generating an ROI? I mean, we've got to look at it and so I'd love to have people do a brain dump of everything that's on their plate. So you've got a database management system or CRM, right? Maybe you're doing social media. You've got let's say MBS Highway and Mortgage Coach, and you've got maybe you have Total Expert as your CRM. There's all kinds of things competing for your attention.
A lot.
And you've got all these different other things that you're doing. Some people are in network groups or in BNI or they're. So we need to just write down every single thing that's taking our time and attention and start to put a plus and minus, because some things just create busyness.
Yeah,
Not
100%.
creating any result.
Yeah.
I want to do activities that are creating results.
So with the elite producers, you have elite producers, and then you have average, for lack of a better term, and there's more average than elite. Was there a specific skill set that the elite producers have over the average ones that you could say? And you've done people with a lot of disc profiles, so do you see one skill set that the elite producers have over the average ones?
They execute.
Execution. It sounds so simple, right?
It's night and day, and for me, I had a team meeting yesterday, and I know my team, I drive them crazy because we come up with great ideas, but and I have a creative side to me. I have both sides, but I'm an executor. I don't want an idea. If we're going to bring something forth, now I want the execution plan. And I hold the team accountable to that, because execution is what moves the needle.
Right.
And it's like even the trainings that I teach, like if someone just takes like 2 of my exercises and they actually execute on them, they could do those exercises like building a referral partner network. I have 4 exercises to build. If you did nothing else for 6 months but just actually do the exercises, you'd probably double your production.
So with that, what is the most underrated skill that you have to give loan originators that they're just not doing?
Well, there really is a skill, Dawn, to the art of connection.
Okay.
We all do it inherently, right? We connect.
Yeah.
In a business that are relationship. But the reality is we have to really understand in mortgage. I mean, it really does boil down to the one with the most friends wins. I mean, let's be honest. You have to be able to deliver. That's a minimum standard. But we've got to be able to build relationships that really are based on value and trust. And it's how I built my business to 200 million. But it's like anything else. You've got to become really clear in your strategy. It's not just about, you have that great meeting. This happens all the time. You get a meeting with a great realtor, as an example. You feel good about it. You guys connect.
On cloud 9.
Powerful. And then you go back to the office and you're like, now what do I do? It's the follow-up just falls off the wagon, and that relationship never gets developed because there's no system. And so I started realizing early in my career that I had to create systems, and I didn't have someone necessarily training me all this. I just could see it. Like when I started my career, I worked for a bank, and I was assigned 4 closed real estate offices. And I couldn't just walk in. I had to just go to these 4 offices, but I couldn't get past the front door. And no one trained me how to go get business, so I had to get creative. So I started going to open houses on the weekend for the people in that office. And I would create my own strategies around how would I show up at the open house. And I would walk through the house. I would come downstairs. I wouldn't just throw my card on the stack of all the real estate cards. I would walk up to the listing agent. I would physically hand him my card. I would introduce myself. I would have picked out something on my tour of that house to focus on. And I'd be like, that master bathroom is to die for. I'd kill for that master bathroom. Or, and you got to find something, even if it's a fixer house. I would find something that was the highlight of that house for me. And I would speak to that with the listing agent. And then I would go back to my office and I would, if I went to 5 open houses, I would write 5, handwritten notes. So great to meet you at 123 John Street. I'd love to learn more about how you built your success. Let's connect. And I didn't overthink it. I would just send off a card. And then I thought, I need to build a campaign so I stay in front of them for the next 6 weeks. So then I built a 6-week campaign. And then I'd start executing on the campaign. And every single thing I did, from database management to from my process and flow, one of the best exercises a loan originator can do is to sit down with their team and just go, okay, what happens when the lead comes in the door? Dawn, you may have the first conversation, right? You get it through email, you get it through text, you get it through a voicemail, and you
Right.
have this first amazing trust conversation. Then what happens to that lead? Where does it go? How does it get followed up on? What system is there? Because in 2020, when everybody had so much business,
Right.
leads were just falling through the cracks like
Low
a
hanging
sieve.
fruit. It was just so easy.
But I mean, one of my clients told me he left $50 million on the table that year in funded loans because they had no system for lead tracking and lead follow-up. Same thing with building a realtor partnership. What's your follow-up campaign? So a lot of what we do in coaching is help people to systematize, because if you systematize areas of your business, it saves you so much time. One of my clients, she sent me a testimonial. She said, I picked up 15 hours of my week. I'm not working 60 hours, I'm working 45. And now I can be out in front of people building relationships. So I really urge clients, friends, loan originators to get comfortable with focusing 1 hour a day on your growth. People hate the word time blocking, so I called it my growth hour. I could now call it my opportunity hour, but we all want to grow. I'm a growth junkie. So if I focus an hour a day on my own growth, meaning I'm making those bold outreach calls every single day, we can move the needle really quickly. But most people don't have a plan for their growth because they're physically stuck in their files all day long, and they're chasing the challenge, right? But they're not working on their business.
So then that goes to the pillars. What would you say is more important than the systems or consistency?
Both.
Okay. Anyone more one than the other? I mean,
Well, first of all, you have to build the system, and
you
I
do.
see systems are a word that scares people. Like, I don't have time to build a system. Systems can be very, very simple. And before we had all this technology, we built our systems in an Excel spreadsheet because that's all we really had access to, a shared folder with an Excel spreadsheet. My pipeline manager was an Excel spreadsheet that sat on all of my team's desktops that we could all access, right? And so, but we've had a really tight system because we didn't have CRMs that did that like we have today.
Uh-huh.
But the reality is, it was consistent. I had a database management system that I had 4 databases consistently for my entire career. Sometimes I had 5, but I had my past client database. All my closed loans was one database, and they were segmented. I had my business contact database, anybody that wasn't a realtor, my CPA, my financial planner. And look, I put every person I came into contact with, my dentist, my OBGYN, my CPA, those people buy houses too.
Yeah.
So they went into my business contact database. I had my friends and family database. We frequently forget that. It was like my Christmas card list. I had 200 people in that. Every friend and family member went into my friends and family member database. And then I had a realtor database with 100 realtors. That was my magic number. I probably only worked with 20, but I had 100 in my database. But on the 1st and the 15th of every month, I sent an email that I wrote with, whether it be a market update from Barry Habib, whether it be, what's going on in our local market, whether it was something that was personal interest, whether it was a marketing tip or a tools for how to get more business. But I would send an email on the 1st and the 15th of the month. It was in my calendar. It was part of my marketing plan that was a built-out annual plan that went into my calendar that I showed up to. I wasn't responsible for all the plan because I had other team members that helped me execute to the plan. But I wrote the email, and that email went out to my databases twice a month for 30 years, consistently.
And is that part of the systems that transformed your business, or what's a personal example of a system that transformed your business?
Well, past client database for sure, and it is probably the one
hardest.
area I would say if I see loan officers faltering.
Right here.
There's a few, because loan officers in today's world do not manage their database appropriately, and it was responsible for 30% of my income my entire career. And I just, it's so frustrating for me because it's not that hard to do, but most people don't know how to use their system. They don't have a process for it. And if it's built out super simply, where everyone should have access to be able to write an email to your past client database. At the click of a button, it gets automated to say, "Hi, Don.
Right.
Just checking in, And one of the best emails I ever wrote, and this is so silly, I tested a concept once to see, because long emails don't even get read because no one has time. Right?
If like I say on social media, if it says see more, I don't.
So, but my best email I ever wrote, you should write this down and actually do this. In the subject line, I said checking in. And all I said was, "Hi there, just checking in to see how you're doing with your home and your mortgage. No rush to get back to me, but I would love to do a catch-up call with you when you have a few minutes. Let me know how you're doing. I'd just love to catch up." That's all I said. I get 59 responses and 9 loans off of that one email.
Off of a free email.
Off of a check-in, just checking in on your home and your mortgage. Now, I have a past client call script that gives you 6 questions to ask all of your past clients that will open up refi opportunities in any market. So I went on to build systems to how to make those calls really count, because you can also unveil a lot of opportunities for your realtor partners in making those past client calls with a script that gives you the quality questions to ask.
Right.
So like as an example, I've never forgotten, I called one of my past clients and I was doing my check-in. His name was Jack. And I said, "Just how are you guys doing with your home and your mortgage? It's been a while since we chatted." He goes, "We're doing great." And I said, "Well, have you had any life events, in your family in the last couple of years?" He goes, "Yeah, we didn't expect to have a third baby. We had third accident baby. And suddenly the house feels like it's too small. Probably we'll look in about another year because we're kind of growing out of it now."
Yay.
And I said, "And see, he would never call me for that."
Right.
He was but he's now telling me because I asked the question about any life events. So I said, "Well, if you're already growing out of the house," I said, "Jack, it's a pretty good market right now." And I knew who his realtor was. And I said, "I think you should call Patty and Ren and have a conversation. I mean, why not go look now? Why wait a year in a cramped house? The market's really strong. Why don't you go take a look at what's out there and see what you think?" And he goes, "Well, I'll talk to my wife about that. We really weren't thinking of doing that." I go, "Well, I'd highly recommend it, because how great would it be to get you into the space that you need now for your growing family?" And I said, "Give him a call. I mean, they're not going to put any pressure on you to do anything, but it might be worth it to see what's out in the market." So I hang up the call. Of course, I call the realtors really fast. I'm like,
Got him.
Secretly, get ready, look their comps up, see what their house is worth. Don, they were in escrow on their new house in 2 weeks.
Wow.
I created that opportunity, and I got a $500 gift certificate from that realtor at the end to say thank you for creating that opportunity for us.
All from having a conversation.
All from picking up the phone and asking the question. That was just one of my 6 questions. But you unveil opportunities when you actually have a conversation.
Well, and that's crazy how so many originators, they're afraid to have a conversation. I talk to them all the time. I'm like, "You do your 10 calls a day. You do what do we, if they answer the phone, what am I going to say? Hello?" I mean,
just checking in to see how you're doing.
Just checking in to see how you do it. But
talk to me a little bit about what's going on in your life. Anything change in your life circumstances over the last year? And this is the other thing that comes up a lot. They're like, "Well, yeah, Mary lost her job and it's been a rough couple of years." And I go, "Yeah, well, one of the biggest challenges right now is everyone's sitting on 3% interest rate mortgages, but they've racked up, we're at an all-time debt ceiling.
$60,000 in credit card debt.
Impacted a lot of our clients, and they've, particularly with people losing your jobs, I don't know if this impacts you, but we've got a lot of clients doing debt consolidation loans, and in some cases, we've been able to save them, $1,000+ a month, and it's really changed the game. So, talk to me a little bit. I mean, have you racked up debt in your world, being that Mary lost her job, and you start having that conversation, then people start telling the truth. They would have never called you to do a loan, but now you can really make a difference in their life. And that's why having a formula and a plan and a script to call with. And I called 10 past clients on Tuesdays and 10 past clients on Thursdays. That was my formula.
Consistency.
it wasn't that hard. That was part of my growth hour for that particular day.
I think that's the hardest though, is trying to get into the rhythm, creating the system, creating the consistency, and having the discipline to just keep doing it to where you can grow. So, what are some daily disciplines for Cindy Ertman that are non-negotiables? I
Well,
know you love meditation.
obviously my morning practice is
Yeah.
non-negotiable. I will tell you that as an originator and a mortgage leader, because my partner and I ran a billion-dollar branch for many, many, many years, my growth hour from 10 to 11 was non-negotiable.
Okay.
I was physically in an office. I would shut my door. I had a nail on the outside of my door, and I had a sign that said, "Do not disturb." So for that hour, it was off limits, and that was my focused growth hour. And I made a commitment to myself that if I was going to grow my business and become one of the best in the nation, I had to be intentional about growth. So that was my growth hour. And yes, I had a plan as to who I was going to call. Monday, I called 10 realtors that know, like, and trust me from my list of 20. And that was just my little formula. And it was a check-in. Tell me what's going on with your business. How was your weekend? Do you have any new listings coming out? How are you finding the market? It was just a connection call. Wednesdays, I'd call 10. I had a list of 20 realtors that I wanted. My goal was to get a meeting. So, I would call them with the sole intention of getting a coffee or lunch appointment with them. And then Fridays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, I would do my past clients. And then Fridays, I would do 10 thank you notes to anyone and anyone that I felt deserved to be appreciated. Today, I would do 10 one-minute videos to people to say, thinking about you, want to say
I
thank you.
love the text videos. I'm doing a ton of them because when my phone rings, I'm like, who is this? I don't recognize this person. I'm not going to answer this person. I'll see if they leave a message. So now I'm like, why don't I just send a little text video message? They go farther. The people don't feel like they have to respond immediately. They get to see your face, get to see a little bit more of your character, your emotion, your feelings. So, and all that helps create relationships, which is the final pillar. So, what's the secret to building lasting client and partner relationships?
We hear it all the time. It's creating value, but it really is, it's the key. Like, I was so committed to creating value for my referral partners. And, because I've taught you, I have my connection to conversion strategy. It's 40 questions to ask a realtor in a first meeting. Now, it's not that you're going to be able to ask all 40. There is a system to how you ask those questions. But the reality is that meeting is all about the realtor or the financial planner that's in front of you. It's asking questions, being 100% present, and really getting to know them at a deeper level. I became obsessed, Dawn, in my career with there has to be a quicker way to build real relationship. And I studied it. I read psychology books. I read communication books. And I thought, I am going to build a formula and I'm going to test it that I can then go out and train all my loan officers on to really scale relationships faster. So connection to conversion was birthed, and I kept playing with it and tweaking it till one day I had a meeting with a realtor and I knew I had created the winning formula for success. And then I'd had, and the other thing is going into that meeting. Most people go into a meeting. So let's say you go to a meeting with a realtor, you get the meeting, you get a lunch, you get a coffee, whatever. And you have this great meeting. And then, like I said, what's next? Most people just shake hands and say, "Oh, it's so great to meet you." And everybody goes to their corners. But the reality is, I trained myself to go into every meeting with a plan for the outcome I wanted to create. So if I had that first meeting with my connection strategy, I have connection to conversion part 1 and connection to conversion part 2, which is meeting number 2. So when I finished my meeting, the first meeting, and this was a plan that I used 100% of the time, so I never had to think about what to do in a meeting. When I would finish that meeting, I would say, I'll give you an example. You're the realtor, Dawn. So, hey, Dawn, that was incredible. Thank you so much for sharing so much information about your business and your life. I feel like I really got to know who you are and how you've created such great success in your business. So it meant a lot to me that you would really share all that with me. But you know what? One of the things I love to do with my top producing realtor partners is I love to help them with their marketing strategies. And I try to meet with them at least, 3 to 4 times a year to discuss their marketing strategy. And I think it would be a really cool follow-up meeting for us. So would you be open in a couple of weeks? I'll reach out. Let's get we can just do a 30-minute follow-up meeting on the books. Would you be open to talking about marketing strategy? Because I would love to help you build and grow your business. And would you be open to that?
And they're always going to say yes, because people in general by nature do not want to say no.
Well, and they're right in front of you, and they've just given you an hour of their time or 30 minutes of their time. And I said, I do this with my top producing realtors, right? So there's a lot of subtleties into language that I bring into meetings, but they always say yes to that. And then 2 days later, so I go back to my office, I write them a handwritten thank you note, or I send them a 1-minute video. And then I go meet with them for the marketing meeting, and I have connection and conversion part 2, which is 12 marketing questions to ask a realtor. And it's not even meant for marketing. It's meant to connect at a deeper level. And then in that meeting, I use my if when strategy to get them to a yes to work with me. They self-select in, and I want them to choose me. And that's the key to building a really successful business model. And then they go into my follow-up plan,
Right.
with a system and a process.
The systems, consistency, all the 5 pillars which you embody. What are they? So let's redo the 5. So first pillar is mindset.
I've got to go look at my notes here because I don't. Yes, I mean obviously mindset. We've got
Skills.
consistency.
Consistency.
Discipline is there. You have
Yes.
to make a choice that you want to be successful, and then you got to map out the systems that you're willing, to execute to. And then we've got, relationship development. I mean, that is to me.
I love that one.
You got if you don't have relationship development skills at a whole nother level, you can't be really successful.
That's the fun one, I think, is developing those relationships. So relationship, systems, consistency, discipline, skill set, and mindset. Yeah. Those are the top 5. Yes. Wow. So real quick, one word that defines a top producer.
Intention.
Intention. Okay.
I mean, you've got to, success is a choice. It's an intentional choice. It doesn't happen without you creating an intentional choice for your business. So
I love that.
Deciding to be intentional is definitely the difference.
I love that. Favorite book for growth? I know you love to read. I love the book that you sent me. I'm not a big reader, but so favorite book for growth?
Well, the one I always send out, because it was written by one of my deep mentors in life, is Jack Canfield, The Success Principles. Sat on my nightstand for a long time, and then I started reading it. 64 very basic success principles. But there are some principles in that book that I really did embody into my business that really changed the game. And so I have 3 or 4, definite favorites, but I mean, I'm a big fan of Jack Canfield, so the Success Principles was meaningful in my life.
All right. And so what is the one thing that you wish that you had knew sooner?
I think asking for help.
It's the hardest thing, right?
It's an interesting thing because I'm super independent, as most people are in mortgage. Not that we know it all, but it's like I realized that, wow, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help if you just ask for it. I'm always amazed when I'm talking to an originator that may have 3 top producers sitting in their branch, but they've never even gone and set a meeting with them to say, hey, could I take you to lunch or pick your brain, or can you help talk to me about how you became so successful? So, I mean, and obviously I committed to, I hired a coach. I've had a coach for 40 years. I committed to coaching long before I could afford it, because the way I broke it down in my own head is probably back then, if an average commission, so probably back then it was like $2,500 a loan, or maybe it was more because we weren't as confined. Maybe it was $4,000. But, and if coaching is going to cost me $1,500 a month, I could see that if they could help me do 5 more loans a month, that was going to pay for itself 10.
ROI, yeah, right.
Not to mention become a better leader and all this stuff, and lead my life, lead my team. So coaching became like a non-negotiable for me, and still is. So it's something I don't just do it, I believe in it. I think it's changed my life, and I don't look at it as a cost. I look at it as investment in my future. But also asking for help. And I'm at a point today, we're building relationships with amazing national leaders at conferences and whatnot. I have so many people when I started my coaching company that just showed up to help. Barry Habib, Dave
Right.
Savage, Renee
Amazing
Rodriguez,
people.
all these people that over 25 years became trusted friends that have just been there for support. So asking for help when you're unclear, uncertain, feeling overwhelmed, people are willing to help.
Awesome. Well, final thought. If someone listening is kind of just stuck at becoming a top producer, what's the very first move they should make today to become a top producer?
I think, first of all, you've got to make a choice that you're going to commit to excellence. And you've got to commit to be coachable, because Don, I still laugh at the way we met, right? You chased me backstage after I came
Almost
off
tackled
the
you.
stage. But the first words out of your mouth were, I think I'm uncoachable. But the thing is it's so far from the truth for you. You have been extremely coachable. But the reality is, some people that have been in business a long time get really stuck in their ways and they don't want to make change. But the reality is, to move the needle, we have to make change, because what we've been doing isn't going to get us to what got us here won't get us there, right?
Right.
So we've got to be
Totally
open
different.
to, and I always say, be a sponge, because I might teach you something, Don, that you've done before in a different way. And so the easiest thing to do is, I've already done that, it didn't work. Well, you've never done it my way.
Right.
Like, if you'll commit to actually execute the strategy and actually deliver it, I can promise you'll get traction. But I can't make you do the work. And one of my clients in 2019, Tom Couture, Tom came to me. He couldn't break 38 million to save his life. And he was stuck at that for years. And he's like, I've been in business 42 years. I know I'm an old dog, but I need new tricks. And Tom went from 38 million to 58 million in 1 year, and then went from 58 to 132 million, closing 579 units. Like, mind-blowing growth, but he did the work. And he was humble, and he just said, I'm going to do this differently. And it's amazing what we can create when we open ourselves up to change and realize that growth only happens when we're really willing to make change. And change can be super fun and motivating. And one of my greatest gifts is when people leave one of my retreats and say, oh my gosh, I found my mojo back again. I'm excited about my mortgage business again. And that's when the momentum starts to explode. So getting people excited about the business and what we do changes lives every single day. It's
right.
So powerful. And we lose sight of that.
Well,
so making a decision for excellence and then execution.
Well, and getting a mortgage license doesn't teach you how to do mortgages. And we start out in this industry and we get it, but we're not really sure what to do. But people like you, people like Barry, people like Sue, people like Dave, you guys are really the ones showing us, you're giving us the playbook on how to do it. And thank you for that. Because if it were not for you, I probably would not have a renewed excitement about my business.
And look, you're launching a podcast.
I know. Who would have thought? An old gay bald dude.
Greatest thing. Well, look, and one of the things that I love to do is I really do love having conversations with people that are thinking about taking it to the next level. And so, if people go to my website, you can just go to cindyrtman.com. Or the definingdifference.com. And there's a little button at the top says, just schedule an appointment. And so just jumping on and, I do those as real coaching calls. These are not just sales calls. These are let's talk about where you're blocked, what your biggest challenges are, what's standing in the way, what do you want to accomplish? Let's really dive in to give you some tools for what you can create. And then you can decide if coaching's right for you. But I love having conversations with originators and leaders that really do want to grow and they just need some new tools. So I always welcome that.
Well, thank you, Cindy Ertman, for being my very first guest. You have set the bar extremely high. I love the energy. I love everything that you bring, not only to my world, but to the mortgage world. So
thank you.
I would love to thank you for being on the show, Deals and Dollars with Don.
Love it. And I can't wait I'm going to push you out far on. Let's get this big. Let's get you out to a lot of people so you can help more people. All right, my friend?
Thank you. I love you so
Take care.
much, and I want you to have a wonderful day.
Love you too.
All right,
Bye, my
bye. Such amazing information from truly one of the greatest in the industry. This has been our very first episode with Deals and Dollars with Don. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and share.
Good.